I watched 200 movies throughout 2023. Some good, some bad, and some very bad. So let's talk about them. In this video, I'll talk about films 1 to 100, and the rest will be in another video at some point. Alright, let's go. I started the year with Marcel the Shell with shoes on, and Jesus Christ, I would die for this stop-motion mollusk. This is the cutest character I've ever seen, but that's not the important part. This film deals with grief, loss, community and belonging in one of the most beautiful ways I've ever seen. I don't have much time to talk about each film. If I'd said everything I wanted to, this video would be 10 hours long, so I've got to cut down my comments and leave it there. I really like Wes Anderson movies, but this one just didn't do it for me. It's probably because the film's main theme revolves around brotherly relationships, and I don't know what those are like because I don't have a brother. It's not a bad movie, just not for me. I was forced into watching this by my girlfriend at the time. The number says it all. I watched this on the same day as Twilight and it was like going from Subway to Nobu. I imagine. I've never been to Nobu. The stop motion animation is so fluid, every character is full of personality and emotion, which is so fun to watch. Pinocchio genuinely feels like a kid here, which makes the story that much more heartfelt. The best things about No Country for Old Men are Javier Bardem's acting, the dialogue from Bardem, and the cinematography. Everything else is kind of meh. The problem is, these three aspects are so good that they make the decent aspects of the film feel so much worse, which is why I haven't thought about this film more than twice since I watched it. Poltergeist f***ing sucked. So many people told me this film would be terrifying before I watched it, and like, I get it's a film from the 80s, so it's probably not going to have the same impact now, especially in terms of horror. It was just awful. There were two cool moments that I liked. There was a part where a hallway stretched out forever in front of a character, and a part where another character ripped their own face off. These, 2 minutes of the film were really invented, but the rest was terrible. Also, the whole reason this house is haunted is because it was built over a graveyard. A human graveyard. So what the f*** is this? I'm sorry, but I really don't get the hype about Fallen Angels. Obviously, it's been a while since I watched it, but the main details I remember is that one character hadn't spoken since he had some out-of-date pineapple as a kid, and another character spent about half the time wanking in bed. The cinematography was really nice, at least. Videodrome is an incredibly inventive horror movie that I really enjoyed watching. It's the only David Cronenberg film I've seen, but the sheer grossness of the body horror makes me want to watch more of his work. Life is Beautiful is an utterly gorgeous film. It starts as a hilarious comedy that made me and my friend laugh uncontrollably, then it hits you with a complete 180, using comedy to make us cry rather than make us laugh. It's incredible. A lot of people are going to be angry at this score, but just hear me out, okay? Don't worry, I'm not an animation hater. Some of my best friends are animated. I do think the art style and animation of this film are beautiful, and I did really like how it tackled the idea of death, but I just didn't enjoy it. The Last Wish just follows every stereotypical fairy tale story without adding much to them, which just made it a boring watch. Like, they acknowledge the tropes of the genre, but that doesn't mean they can get away with following them. I have very weird feelings about Dr. Strangelove. I think it's brilliantly written, shot and acted, and its political commentary is incredibly important. But the film just didn't make me feel anything. I don't know how to explain it, but I just felt blank while watching it, which makes it hard to rate. Eraserhead is a really intriguing movie. I didn't completely understand it at first, and to be honest, I still don't get everything about it now, but the themes it tackles are really interesting, and it's a fantastically made film. Snatch is a fantastic comedy. Guy Ritchie is so good at writing dialogue in these gangster movies, and every line is quotable, it's great. I have mixed feelings about Empire of Light. The love letter to movie scenes were better than these types of messages usually are, but there were still quite a few moments that took me out of the film, like Olivia Colman being surprised that racism exists from Margaret Thatcher as Prime Minister. Speaking of Olivia Colman, she was brilliant, and her relationship with the equally brilliant Michael Ward was pretty believable. I hate my friend for making me watch this. Where the Wild Things Are is a really special movie to me. It's one of the only good representations of autism I've seen. I'm pretty sure Breeze Blocks is based on this film, and that was my most listened to song this year, so. It's Such a Beautiful Day is a fantastic look at grief, loss, and the necessity of appreciating the little things in life. This is one of the only films that has made me properly cry. Please go watch it if you haven't. So many people loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I really don't understand why. There's one interesting character in the whole film, and he only has 2 good scenes, before the movie devolves into using a flamethrower on the Manson family in a swimming pool. Anyone that says they're confused by Inception has the mental capacity of a salt-covered slug. Every character in this is constantly spouting expositional information. It's impossible to get lost. Still, it's a good film, and I love Elliot Page. Banshees is brilliant, the characterisation is fascinating and the narrative is heartbreaking. I'm happy that Everything Everywhere All at Once won so many Oscars, but this definitely should have gotten Best Original Screenplay. Trainspotting is grim, but I love it. I never knew I needed to see Ewan McGregor dive into a shit-filled toilet until I watched this film. I think that's the 3rd time I've made that joke on this channel. Everyone loves Michael Cera, everyone loves Scott Pilgrim, there's nothing else to say. Life of Brian is maybe the 2nd best comedy movie ever made. Actually, never mind, I'm waffling, it's like 10th at best. Nausicaa is a bit of a weird one. I love Studio Ghibli movies and the themes that they typically explore, and Nausicaa is no different in this way. It just didn't hit me in the same way as their other movies did. I struggled to connect to it emotionally for some reason, but still, it's a Ghibli movie, so the animation and music were out of this world. Porco Rosso is a beautiful film. The messages about fascism and war are heartbreaking, the writing is superb, and the animation is gorgeous. There's something about the way Studio Ghibli draws airships. It's just stunning. Reservoir Dogs is incredible. The writing is fast and smart, the performances are entertaining, and there are so many iconic scenes. I love it. The Whale was one of the most overrated films I've ever seen. The only good things about it were Brendan Fraser's performance and the makeup. Everything else sucked. The Grand Budapest Hotel is my favourite film from one of my favourite directors. The writing is witty, the performances are inventive, the set pieces are brilliant, and the cinematography is beautiful. I have very mixed feelings about Ikaru. I think that the first half is an amazing look at loss and grief through a really inventive lens. However, the second half is one of the most dull things I've ever watched, but I think that's the point. The second half of the film consists of characters arguing whether or not the protagonist knew he was going to die, then arguing whether or not the first argument is a waste of time. I think this second half is intentionally dull to mimic the repetitiveness of these arguments, but still, I just didn't really enjoy it. I can appreciate it though. Quantumania might be the single worst thing I've ever seen. The writing, acting, editing and CGI are atrocious, and my mate had a very bad time watching it. Paths of Glory was a really interesting film. I think the concept and the acting were great. I just wish that the courtroom scene was longer, as this was the most interesting part to me. Skinamarink is a really weird movie. There were quite a few really good, genuinely scary scenes, but the other half of the film was just nothing. I was a bit disappointed by the film, but I'm excited to see what the filmmakers do next. There's nothing to say about Shawshank, everyone knows it's perfect. I've really struggled to make it through this film. I really liked the first short story, but other than a few cool sporadic moments, the rest were really dull. Triangle of Sadness is such a frustrating film. The first 2 acts are a 10 out of 10, but the movie takes maybe the biggest nosedive I've ever seen in the final act. Still, one of my favourite cinema experiences ever was being in a room full of strangers viscerally reacting to that ultra-rich projectile vomiting and shitting. Megan was exactly what I expected it to be. A cheap, turn your brain off bit of fun, and it was quite good at doing that. I thought that I was really going to enjoy Stalker, and I was quite upset when I didn't. This was mainly my fault though. I find it quite hard to differentiate between faces, so all 3 of the protagonists looked pretty much identical to me. Between this and having to look down at the subtitles, I found it difficult to work out which character was saying which lines, which kind of ruined all the characterization. Again, my fault, not the film's, hence the question mark rating. Shin Godzilla is an incredible film. A lot of American kaiju movies forget the entire point of these creatures. They just end up being 2 hours of a CGI monster smashing up a city. They miss the metaphor of kaijus representing nuclear weaponry. I think the biggest difference between American and Japanese Godzilla movies are the feelings you have towards the kaiju. When you watch an American movie, you're cheering when Godzilla knocks over a skyscraper, but when you watch Shin Godzilla, you're terrified when he first activates his atomic breath. It's fantastic. Her is the story of history's most successful E-relationship. Joaquin Phoenix's on-screen acting as the average Valorant player is incredible, and Scarlett Johansson's voice acting was fantastic. See How They Run is a really entertaining murder mystery. I saw a Letterboxd review that called it the Wes Andersonification of Knives Out, and I think that's a great description. Akira is a really interesting film, but I didn't enjoy it quite as much as I thought I would. I think the story wasn't paced too well, and so I ended up feeling like it dragged on despite the pretty short runtime. Still, I love the animation, music and voice acting. Fantastic Planet is very odd. I quite liked the themes of class and wealth divide throughout the film, and the art style was really nice. It was just weird. Little Miss Sunshine is special to me. I absolutely love every character in this film. They all have their own distinct arcs that mould into each other. This movie is a beautiful look at family and acceptance, and everyone should watch it. Rye Lane was really well made, and there were quite a few scenes that felt really special while watching. Mainly the karaoke scene and the sequence where the 2 protagonists are trying to explain themselves after being caught hiding in someone else's flat. The killing of a sacred deer is a disgusting, uncomfortable, unnatural movie, and I absolutely love it for that. Colin Farrell and Barry Keoghan are great leads, and they're brilliantly supported by Nicole Kidman, Raffi Cassidy and Sunny Suljic. I think this is the film that has been most effective at making me feel gross and out of place. It's fantastic. The 36th Chamber of Shaolin was a lot of fun, and thinking about it now is making me want to watch more Kung Fu movies. Obviously, no one really cares about the story or acting in a film like this. The important qualities are the action and stunts, and these were great. Honestly, I forgot that I watched The Lost Boys, which tells you everything you need to know about it. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a solid movie with some great CGI and a brilliant performance by Andy Serkis. Thinking about it now, I don't know why I didn't watch the rest of the trilogy. I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey at my favourite cinema, and it was incredible. Everything has kind of already been said about this movie, and indeed Stanley Kubrick in general, but the cinematography was gorgeous, the practical effects were stunning, and the music was beautiful. I don't completely understand the end of the film, but I love the transition from the space we see throughout the movie to the weird, grandiose colours and the vacant room our protagonist ends up in. Saw was alright. It felt kind of nothingy. I don't really know how to explain it. I haven't bothered watching any of the sequels because it was just meh. The best parts of The Social Network are the writing and the acting. Both of these aspects are top tier. It's been talked about to death, but Andrew Garfield's I Was Your Friend monologue is one of the best performances I've ever seen. I feel kind of the same about Scream as I do about Saw. It's just a generic horror movie. I understand that at the time it wasn't generic and everything since has copied it, but now it's just a bit dull. Fantastic Mr. Fox is a fantastic film. The colour palette is gorgeous, which complements the beautiful cinematography and stop-motion animation. This adaptation changes a lot of details from the book, but I feel like they're all positive additions. Every voice actor kills their role, and everything about the film contributes to a unique aura that nothing else can really match. Okay, product movies are just elaborate marketing schemes, but this one was really good. Matt Damon killed it. I just wish I didn't have to see Ben Affleck's feet. I used to watch White Chicks every time I stayed around a specific friend's house, so this one was for old time's sake. Inglourious Basterds is maybe the best war movie ever made. As always, Tarantino's screenplay is phenomenal, and it's delivered spectacularly by every actor, especially Christoph Waltz, Brad Pitt, and Melanie Laurent. The cinematography is beautiful, and the narrative is just incredible. I have so much love for this film, it flips between my third and fourth favourite Tarantino movie. The Mario movie was fine, I guess. It was exactly what I expected, but not what I wanted. The acting was anticipatedly meh, and the same goes for the script, but it was nice seeing and hearing all the references that come from different corners of the franchise. I really like Dungeons & Dragons, even if every time I try to play the campaign derails after a few sessions. Still, despite how much I like playing, I don't really know a whole lot about the game or its lore. The reason I say this is because I want to point out how good Honor Amongst Thieves was at explaining key ideas within the game to the general audience. Anyway, long story short, this film was entertaining enough. Baby Driver is my second favourite Edgar Wright movie. The script is well written and the performances are great, but those aren't the parts that make it stand out. The music, particularly the way that action syncs to it, is just incredible. I knew the film was going to be great just from the opening credits. Rushmore is a weird film to me. I didn't particularly enjoy watching it, but in the time since I've realised how brilliant it is. This is the earliest Wes Anderson movie I've seen. It's only his second after all. But I loved seeing the early signs of his style seep through different parts of the film. Jason Schwartzman is an incredible actor that kills every role he's in. I don't know why more directors don't utilise him. Juno is one of those films where, despite knowing it's not great, I absolutely love it. Elliot Page and Michael Cera are just so sweet and heartwarming in this film that it feels so comfortable and warm. It's very special to me. I actually watched The Perks of Being a Wallflower after searching films like Juno on Letterboxd. This film is a lot. Like, a lot. Despite the messy relationship situation that covers most of the film, it still feels really comfortable and warm, just like Juno. Mainly due to the emotional performances by Logan Lerman, Emma Watson, and Joseph Seed. This warm feeling is kind of destroyed by a certain event, but I don't want to spoil the film, so I'll leave it there. This was a really weird documentary. I spent the first 35 minutes laughing at how batshit insane these people are, and then the final 5 minutes say, this woman's daughter disappeared and this is her coping mechanism. Cheers for telling me that now after I've made fun of them. Still, this hair is mental. There's no excuse for that. Royal Tenenbaums was a nice film. It had some really hard-hitting scenes, but overall I didn't really feel the same emotional core that Wes Anderson's films usually have. I don't really have anything to say about Grand Budapest that's different from last time. A Ghost Story is one of the most heartbreaking films I've ever seen. I made an entire video explaining why it's great, so go watch the film, then go watch that. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was so much better than I was expecting it to be. The Guardians were always my favourite group within the MCU, so I was worried that the recent decline in quality would affect them. Thankfully, it didn't. Guardians 3 is funny, it's heartfelt, and I think it's the perfect point to leave the MCU at. This film is a satisfying exit from the franchise for me. I wanted to leave it on a high, but that hadn't been possible for a couple of years. Wither Millers was fine. It was funny at points, but overall just a turn off your brain and be entertained film. Okay, so I love Sacha Baron Cohen's characters, particularly Ali G, but half the fun of these characters is seeing the reactions of guests that think they're real people. The script of this film is so funny, but it's missing the key aspect of Cohen's characters. Star Wars is Star Wars. No matter how little I care about the franchise now, nothing can take away the magic of the original. Empire Strikes Back is somehow even better than the original. I don't know how they did it. Jojo Rabbit was a heavy film to watch. I'm not the biggest Taika Waititi fan, but I think his style worked really well here. This film was inventive, stylistic, funny, and emotional. I just hope there aren't any more rabbit-based films on this list. Holy fuck! Isle of Dogs was a bit meh. Of course, the cinematography and animation were brilliant, but it just didn't make me care about any of the characters. Beau is Afraid is a really weird film. I'm not gonna lie and say I understood it all, but I absolutely loved not knowing what the hell was going on. The surrealist horror is so effective, and Joaquin Phoenix is excellent. His dad was a bit weird though. Along with Call Me By Your Name, this film is the reason I want to live in Italy at some point. I didn't even really like the film that much. Italy just looks too nice to give it a low rating. I enjoyed Velvet Goldmine while watching it, but it obviously didn't leave a lasting impression on me because I haven't thought about it once since watching it. It's a decent enough film, just didn't really impact me. This was the first Spike Lee film that I watched, and I really liked it. I think that every character was charming in their own way, despite a few of them being horrible people. Every actor delivers their lines perfectly, and I just love Spike Lee's style. Since this was his feature debut, and it was the first film of his that I'd watched, I decided to watch his filmography in order of release to see how his style develops. There's a couple more of his films on the next part of this video, so keep watching for those. Life Aquatic felt quite similar to Royal Tenenbaums for me. The characters are well written and I like the structure of the film, but for some reason I just didn't really care much about it. Cloverfield was kinda cool. I really like the idea of a cosmic horror that we can't comprehend, and I love how little information we're given about the origins of the monster. I just wish that we didn't see quite so much of it, and the other smaller creatures. The horrors that we imagine are always going to be scarier than something we can actually see. So I think the terror of this film would be a lot more effective if we didn't know what exactly the creature is.
Aladdin Baker.
Aladdin is a
Classic.
and I'm always going to love it. The animation is fluid and the songs are great.
Shouts out to Sonic the Hamilton.
I don't need to spend time talking about Tangled, everyone loves it. Okay, I'll admit, Big Hero 6 is not an 8 out of 10, but nostalgia makes me rate it that way. This was my first time watching Ratatouille and it really wasn't all that. The animation was good, but I just didn't care about the characters. Inside Out was a decent film. I'll admit, most of these Disney and Pixar ratings are based around nostalgia rather than actual quality. Jesus Christ, this is how you make a movie. I've spoken about this film endlessly. I've made a video about it, I've written a review of it, and I've even created an entire presentation on it for college. But I still don't feel as though I've said everything there is to say about it, and I don't think I ever will. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse highlights the peaks of creativity and ingenuity within filmmaking. It ties the best aspects of so many different mediums of art to culminate in an experience unlike any other. This film and its protagonist mean so much to me, and I'm always going to love it. Like most Ghibli films, Kiki's was a sweet narrative with gorgeous visuals. Studio Ghibli movies have a really particular warm, cozy atmosphere, and that's definitely present here. This film did have the disadvantage of being the first thing I watched after Across the Spider-Verse, but it was still good. I bought another ticket for Across the Spider-Verse midway through Kiki's and went to see it with my dad this time. When the end cut to black, he rocketed forward in his chair and shouted, "That's not fair." I love the Jackass movies so much. They're just pure dumb fun and they're some of the most entertaining things you can watch. Batman Death in the Family sucked. It was just a really bland and boring retelling of an interesting story with nothing new added to it. The video buffering was the most entertaining part of watching this film. Hercules was fine, I guess. To be honest, I completely forgot that I watched it, so it obviously didn't impact me very much. Of course, the animation was still really fluid, and the film was visually great. Summer Ghost was a cool short film. There were some nice emotional moments and the art style was cool. It just didn't really leave an impact on me. I enjoyed watching it though. Paprika was really weird and interesting. This film has such a freaky feeling to it. It's a brilliant experience and it made me want to watch more of Satoshi Kon's work in the future. I swear, on random occasions the carnival theme will just pop into my head and it will stay there for hours. Again, the Jackass movies are just pure entertainment. This one isn't quite as good as the main three, but I still love it. My Neighbor Totoro is a great film to watch on a summer evening, so that's exactly what I did. I sound like a broken record at this point, but the coziness factor of Ghibli movies is turned up to 11 here, mainly because of Totoro himself. Like the titular character, this film is fuzzy and sweet and it just feels nice, you know? Onward was okay. I liked it more than I thought I would. Recently, Pixar have usually just been making the same movie over and over and over again, and sadly this film does fall into that pattern. I did enjoy all the D&D references, but the rest of the movie just didn't really do anything for me. I actually really enjoyed Asteroid City. I love Wes Anderson's style usually, but I was worried about this film after I didn't enjoy French Dispatch very much. I was concerned that Wes was just falling into his own isms and becoming quite repetitive, but thankfully Asteroid City didn't fall into this. I absolutely loved the meta-commentary built within the multi-layered storytelling, and I always enjoy seeing Jason Schwartzman on screen. Every actor was brilliant. Obviously the cinematography and sets were gorgeous, and like I said, I really enjoyed the storytelling. I'm thinking of ending things was a weird experience. Watching Jesse Buckley try to escape Todd from Breaking Bad and his Resident Evil-ass family was definitely something. I'm just not quite sure what it was. Like I said earlier, weird surrealist horror really interests me, so this one was great. I watched Forrest Gump for free at an outdoor cinema next to a canal, and it was really fun, except for when two people on a boat pulled up and parked directly in front of the screen, blocking the bottom half of it. Anyway, hydro-transportation shenanigans aside, the film was of course really enjoyable. Tom Hanks and Robin Wright delivered fantastic performances. The story was emotional and heartfelt, and some of the cinematography was really nice. That was the 100th film I watched in 2023, so that marks the end of this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like and comment the best films you watched this year. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the second part where I'll go through films 101 to 200. Thanks for watching, bye!